put down by the way, did you just start the recording, Mike?
Nope, it just started by itself.
Really?
Yeah. I guess it's the
no, it's now live streaming on YouTube. That might be different than recording.
Gotcha.
Oh,
So
now
the
recording.
recording has started. If we have
All
two
right.
people in the room, like I see
Yes.
Martin Lena and Elizalde. Is that two people's names?
No, it's Martine and I'm Jill.
Oh, okay. All righty. I'm gonna
Elizalde.
awesome. I'm gonna fix your name so that your name shows up also, Jill.
Thank you.
Oh, you can do that.
And while we're waiting, we'd love for you to just put in the chat where you are calling from, and if you're part of an organization or a company, you can also put that into the chat if you feel comfortable doing that.
I see Alice from LCE is with us.
And welcome, Alice. We'd love to, if you know, this is a choice, but we'd love to have cameras on. This is going to be a very interactive, experiential 2-hour thing. So we'd love to see all of you. Welcome, Nina, Jane, Jamie, Robert. Nice to have you all here. We're going to give it a couple of more minutes. Just to see if a couple of more people show up. We are expecting some other people. Hello, Taisha. Okay. For those of you that have just come on, first of all, welcome. And secondly, we would love it if you just put down your where you're from, what city or country you're from. And if you would like, you could also put down whatever organization or company you're with. Hi, Ferio, welcome, welcome. I'm noticing that most of you are on mute, and unmute yourselves. We're going to be talking. We're going to be messy. We're going to have fun.
Exciting.
All right. Yeah.
But when I was a teenager, I had a bit of an obsession.
Except if there's background noise. So we're going to wait just maybe another minute and then we'll get going.
We just got a call from Daniel at SAR. He's looking for the link, so I'm sending that over to him. I'm not ignoring you.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. So let's just jump into it. My name is Eric Kohner. And in a second, Michael, who's multitasking, is going to put up our bios so you can find out a little bit about us.
Good afternoon. Good morning, everyone. I'm Michael, and I am multitasking because my theme is I am so flexible. All right, so let's make this happen here. Sharing the screen, and here's our bios. There we go.
Yeah. As you're reading the bio, is it okay if I talk while you read? Is that all right? Cool. I got into this work a couple of years ago. And when I say work, what I mean by that is I started working with emerging talent communities. And when I say emerging talent communities, traditionally underserved, marginalized communities. And I actually got schooled. Somebody in the community said, no, we're not marginalized. We're emerging talent. And I got it. And Mike and I and a few other people, we started bringing coaching and leadership training into those communities. And I went in there because I wanted to make a difference. And what I found out was I have a lot to learn. What I found out was there are amazing people that inspired me. And I created Badass Labs with the thought of bringing different communities together so that we can learn from each other. So that's kind of like the seeds of all of that. And Mike and I had the opportunity to actually bring a badass leadership program. By the way, you're going to just get a taste of it today. But we got to deliver the whole program to an organization called STAR. You want to talk a little bit about that, Mike?
Absolutely. So in 2009, I went to prison. Fortunately, it was as a volunteer, and they let me out the same day. But that started me off with an addiction for prison. So I have been going to California prisons since 2009. And then along the way, I became a board member and a facilitator, and honored to have the executive director of the Freedom to Choose Prison Project Foundation in the room with us today, Forrest Lightberg. And from going in and out of prison, I discovered that the work that we do in prison also works outside of prison, because there's many different types of prisons and boxes that we put ourselves in. And fortunately, a lot of the participants that we were working with on the inside are out now. And we found out that there's an opportunity to support the reentry community, to assist returning citizens with employment, with learning coaching skills and facilitation skills to be able to take this work to the world. And so we've been working with SAR, which is Self-Awareness Recovery. Inside, the founder of that organization did 39 years in California prisons, founded this nonprofit Inside, and now he is actually had several granted programs in California, working with emerging talent, with juveniles, and with returning citizens. So we are expecting to see some of the individuals from SAR in the room. And in a moment, we're going to show you a video clip from an organization called SNUG on the East Coast, which is guns spelled backwards. And I think we've got a few SNUG folks in the room. I see Taisha is with us. And we're going to, give you a little sneak preview of what that organization is up to.
Yeah. And by the way, we just got a SAR person just coming in. Jerome, what's happening?
Good morning. How are you doing today?
Morning, Jerome.
I'm doing great, especially since you're here. So we'd like to. We also, Mike was saying that we brought coaching training. And by the way, when I say coaching training, shout out to Coaches Coactive Training Institute (CTI). We brought that training to the entire staff. Actually, Taisha, before we show the video, could you, in a bottom line kind of way, tell everybody what that experience was like? Is that okay with you?
Bringing coaching into Snug. You want me to talk
Yeah,
about the experience with Snug?
yeah, we're going to
Good
show the
morning,
video of the testimonials, but I just, since you're here, I thought maybe you could talk a little about it.
Okay, good morning, everyone. The experience was great. And I basically say that because we was already training on motivational interviewing with everyone. So we wanted to partner that with coaching, and we didn't know what coaching was about. So when Eric came in and taught us the coaching principle about listening and being able to actually help someone and let them find their own answers, it became contagious because SNUG program is an anti-gun violence program. So doing that type of work, you can't have any tools, you don't have any persuasive elements about yourself outside of how you speak and how you can articulate the work and how you can get someone to see their own issues. So parenting with coaching, it was different. It was about getting into your heart, getting into yourself and actually speaking your truth and learning who you were. And it was a great experience. I'm actually now an executive coach because of this experience. I was just a master trainer. Now I'm an executive coach in a foster care system with this skill set. And I left my job as a trainer and a program manager to be exclusively a coach. So that's what happened. That's what coaching actually did for us. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Taisha. So along the way, we discovered this wonderful thing called coaching culture. It's a way of bringing humans together to interact with each other, in a eye to eye, a face to face. And this is very powerful, for example, in juvenile justice, where youngsters are so used to being talked down to. It's a one up, one down relationship. They're working with a probation officer, psychologist, the system, the police, the courts. So everybody is up and they're down. But in the coaching culture, it's face to face, it's eye to eye, it's heart to heart, person to person. So we hope to introduce you to some of that today.
Right. I also want to give a shout out to Anna Greta Mazziato, who's here today. She's bringing coaching training into prisons. We're going to be going in October to do a pilot program inside. So we're really, really excited about that too. Can we show them the, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you want to do the video?
Yeah, let's just do the video. That way you can hear it, what the impact was on some of the people that got trained in SNUG.
All righty then. Let's get this show on the road.
Praise him. Get up, get out, get to it. My name is Kwame Thompson. I'm a supervisor at Jacoby Hospital SNUG. And the last 3 days I experienced something amazing. When I say get up, get out of that space you're in, get out of your own way and get to something that works. Coaching really works. How do I know? My second day of coaching, we had an exercise where they paired us up and I was coached. And I said, you know what? I got a situation in my life that I want some help in. So I kept it all the way 100. Me and my fiance was going through some turbulence. We couldn't see eye to eye on communicating. When I was being coached, the coach used the tools that we just got in the second day, and it was so effective. I got some homework, went home and utilized what I was taught in this training. And on the second day of training, my relationship turned around for the better. So I know it works.
So I'm Teresa, and I'm from the Rochester SNUG here in Rochester. And what I've learned from the coactive model is a lot of different things in terms of active listening, that there's 3 levels of listening. I've also learned about boundaries and being more open. One of the things that I really took away from this is that it's essential to have boundaries and not overstep your boundaries when you're dealing with any kind of relationship. The coactive model is definitely essential for people of my background. And when I say my background, I mean my minority background. I think it's very essential for us to learn more in our community about these kinds of things that go on, and that we should be able to be aware of these things that are happening in our environment. We're not really taught these type of things. Sometimes lack of knowledge, it's hurtful. If you don't know certain things and you don't have this type of information or access to it, you're not going to be able to learn these things. So a lot of these things are hidden, especially when it comes to us learning. And when I say us, I mean in the minority field. So I definitely learned a lot. This experience was great. I love the people that we had to work with. It was absolutely amazing. And I hope that we continue to learn different models and different aspects when it comes to us doing CTI trainings. Thank you.
That, like, coming up where I'm from and stuff, we ain't have nobody for life coaches or nothing like that. It was the older dudes on the block who told us what to do, and they wasn't telling us no positive things to do. Like, they wasn't listening to our story about what we was going through or any of that. They was just giving us drugs and guns to whatever, That's how the coaches we had coming up. So for me, growing and working in this field, I see like a lot of these young dudes really need that, like somebody to talk to and really listen to them and hear them out. So one thing that really stood out to me about the training is as you read the model, it basically breaks down everything, like every feeling or what every word mean, and you could listen to how they feel about it instead of like talking to them or talking at them. Like, sometimes you just should sit back and listen to what they got to say.
I learned a couple of things from the fundamentals training and on the coactive model coaching. First and foremost, like the whole vulnerability piece and asking people for permission. It tends to create a safe space. So, for me personally, the way that I was brought up, it was like, it was no vulnerability. Like, I always had to be straightforward. I never felt like I could be myself in dealing with people, but I felt like the vulnerability that I showed get other people to open up and be vulnerable themselves. It's the little things. Being an actual listener. Like, sometimes you think you're listening and you're not even listening effectively. And I feel like the things that I learned about active listening would help me in my personal life as well as my professional life and coaching others.
Ready.
Hi everybody, my name is Karja Dawkins Hamilton. I'm the program director for Jacoby Medical Center, Jacoby Snug. I'm also a licensed social worker. So coming into this training, I was a little hesitant because you're not quite sure what you're going to get, what new information people are going to share. But I definitely like this model because it allows me to really put back the power into my clients' hands and into my coachees' hands. I think it's a great model because it just basically is simple. I think sometimes mental health can be a little complicated because it's like, what model am I using? What method do I use? And it's just simply just being and having that person be themselves and bring out those positives and those dreams and those hopes themselves. So I like that about coactive coaching. I also love this model for our community because our community, we are basically trained from children all the way up that, you do as you're told. Like, so reaching inside for your dreams is not something that you're told to do. And I shared earlier that had my mother tried to use this kind of way of raising me as opposed to like telling me what to do, really trying to see what was inside of me, there's no telling what I could have become. So I think one great thing about this is that our community definitely hate mental health. We don't want to be told we need to go to therapy, but to get a coach, to get someone who is on your side, working with you side by side. You guys are doing it together, but you're the one coming up with these ideas, and you're digging deep to see where the weaknesses are, and where some of the strengths is, and what your real hopes and dreams are. I think this is an amazing tool for our community, and the possibilities are endless if people could be coached. Just because it's just so much inside that want to come out, and if we could give that just a little bit of a chance to come out, the world would change. This would be amazing.
All right. All right. Taisha, were you a part of that cohort in New York when they ran that training?
Yes, I was one of the assistants for the class. I helped Eric and the co-facilitators train Snug for the state.
I thought so.
She was more than an assistant. She schooled me. And always indebted to you, Taisha. So we're now just going to we call this in the coaching world designing the alliance. We're just going to really quickly design with you how we're going to be with each other for the next hour and a half. I know that we've done a lot of talking.
I have a clarifying question. Would we like to go through the core beliefs first, or you want to design the alliance first?
Remember, one of the things we were going to say was that we're going to cut each other off. Sometimes we're going to finish each other's sentences. And
that's
Mike,
how we
you just
roll.
Modeled that brilliantly. All
that's
right,
how
so
we roll.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. You're a much better reader of the timeline than me. So why don't you kick us off?
That's right. So we want to look at some of the core beliefs that we're working with today. First, we believe that diversity creates strength when it's experienced.
We believe that dismantling racism and injustice in business and organizational cultures is critical.
We believe that brilliance is not defined by education or economic status. It's defined by lived experience, passion, and impact.
We believe that all benefit when there is an equitable representation at all levels of business and society.
And we believe that we are better together when class structures are dismantled and rebuilt.
We believe that disruption has an important role in any transformation, and we are willing to get uncomfortable.
There you have it.
On that note, we just want to design how we're going to interact with each other. Mike and I have been doing a lot of talking, and now the rest of, for the next hour or so, it's going to be all about you. And it's going to be all about you experiencing. We're going to introduce two models, and it's all about you experiencing them in an interactive way.
Absolutely. We want to make this session interactive. So please use the chat. I will do my best to monitor the chat. I'm going to be wearing multiple hats. In a moment, Stephanie will be back in the room helping us with that. But we want this to be interactive. So, if you just got a burning desire, something needs to be spoken into the room, know that that's what this session is for.
Yeah, and we want this to be messy. You don't need to, virtually raise your hand. Just jump in. We want this to be like real life. Okay. And also know that if we need to move on, please don't take it personal. We want to hear from you, but sometimes we got to move to the next thing. Okay.
Please keep your camera on and unmute unless there's background noise. And don't walk on eggshells, right? Like, we could take it. Just be real. That's what we're together for today.
Yeah, we're here for all different perspectives. Every perspective is valid. So just be real with us. Yeah. Oh, one last thing. Have fun.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Willing to have fun? We need
Yeah.
agreement on that. Raise your hand.
Yeah.
All right.
Raise your hand if you
Okay.
agree. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. All right.
One more thing I want to put into the room, Eric. You know, we are
What?
people from all over the planet. So we can expect that there's going to be a diversity of opinions, of beliefs, of ideas. So let's honor our differences. Let's embrace them. Let's allow others, you know, to have their differences, right? This is a spot where we get a chance to really demonstrate what a living city can look like on the planet, right? Because I'm going to make up that this is like the first time we've gotten people from all the corners of the earth to come together in a room. So, you know, let's just have fun with it and honor each other's differences.
Yeah. And what we're going to be introducing to you now, hopefully, is universal. And we call this model the 5 knowledge centers.
Hold on. I didn't know Stephanie was back in the room, so I was sharing too. Okay. Thank you,
All
Stephanie.
right. We have dueling tech hosts here.
There
Okay.
you go. It's all good.
We call this the 5 knowledge centers. Historically, and when I say historically, the dominant culture, right, has historically really put a lot of emphasis on the head. And when I say head, I mean reason. And there's nothing wrong with that, except there is a diversity of knowledge that we all have. And so we're going to be introducing what we see as, there's probably more than 5 knowledge centers, but these are the 5 that we've come up with, right? So head is where we access reason. And by the way, there's a question in every knowledge center. The head is always asking what, okay? The heart, where we access love and affection, is the who. The gut, where intuition resides, is the where. And the groin, where passion and creativity gets elicited, is the why. And then the last one is the hands, and that's the expressive kinesthetic part of the body that also makes things. And so that's why we put action, and that's the how.
Yeah. And, you know, one of the challenges with this is that, you know, our cultures have often reinforced the value in the mathematical logical in the head, you know, like figure it out, like we're head based, right? Even our educational systems reward that, right? If you got that head thing going on, you can memorize, like you could think it out, right? You tend to excel in the existing educational system, right? And, you know, that's unfortunate because, you know, the heart also is a brain, right? There's a knowing in the heart. They found neurons in the heart. And unfortunately, that center, that heart center, is not as acknowledged or rewarded or encouraged, right, as the head, the mathematical logical.
In fact, not only the heart, the gut, intuition. I don't know about the rest of you, but when I was growing up, it wasn't called intuition. It was called women's intuition. And it was almost said disparagingly.
Yeah.
For the first 25, 30 years of my life, I didn't even know men had intuition because of the way that I was taught. So we assert that in today's world, all these knowledge centers are essential in order to be an effective leader. But enough of talking about it. We're going to now experience it. And we're going to ask all of you to get in touch with either a problem or a challenge or an opportunity, but something in your life. It could be personal, It could be professional. It could be what's next for you in the world, what you want to contribute to the planet. But get in touch with something right now. And I want you to think about it. We're going to go to the head first. Really notice what thoughts are coming up around this problem, challenge, or opportunity. And just notice where your mind is going. And if you feel like blurting out, blurting just means speak. What's a word or two to describe what's in your head right now?
Planning.
Uncertainty.
Somebody else said something?
Uncertainty.
Was it you, Anna Greta? Yeah, uncertainty. Anna Greta, what were you saying?
Planning.
Planning. Yeah. Okay.
Consistency. Sorry.
Yeah. Great.
Yes.
And notice, thank you. Notice actually how your thoughts are also impacting your body right now. Like I'm noticing, I feel a little tension in my neck. Yeah, yeah. What else is happening in your body?
So Eric, here's one you might relate to. I think from the very first fundamentals class we ever did, we did a demo on this, and I think it was about aging. Aging is something that I've been thinking a lot about lately.
Okay.
I'd also add fatigue.
Yeah. Fatigue. Okay.
Good one.
And
Good.
tensions in my head.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to ask all of you to put your hand on your heart. We're going to the heart now, and the heart is love and affection. The question that we ask in the heart is who, and it could be who you are in this. It could be other people that you're interacting with around this situation that you've been thinking about. But bring it into the heart. Who do you want to be? Who do you want to impact? Just notice. I'm hearing some, yeah, just notice what's happening in this knowledge center. And just throw out a couple of words to describe what's in your heart right now.
Caring.
Hope.
Yeah. By the way, if you're on mute, we can't hear you. Yeah.
Peace.
Yeah. Notice the difference between the head and the heart. And now I'm going to ask you to actually find somebody on the Zoom screen and just connect with them from the heart. Find one person and just connect. And notice what your heart's telling you now. And if you wish, you can connect with a few others. It doesn't have to be just one. Just go where your heart tells you. Yeah. And it never fails, but this is the hardest part for me because I could do the rest of the lab just hanging out in the heart, but we need to now move to the gut. So just go to your gut right now. And the gut is the where. The gut tells us where to go all the time. And going back to that issue that we started with, notice what your gut is telling you about that. And once again, just throw out a word or two around the gut.
Lean in.
Get it done.
Mm-hmm.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Courage.
That's right.
Yes.
Compassion.
Great. Wonderful. All right. I'm now going to ask you to stand up if you can. If you can't, that's okay. You can do this sitting down. And I want you to get grounded, like as though you were a goalie in a soccer, or if you were playing basketball and you were guarding somebody, okay? Or you could also find a martial arts stance, but really ground yourself, really, really allow yourself to like get into that groin energy, which is passion, all right? And the question in the passion groin area is why? Why is this important to you? Why must you do something about this? Why? Get in touch with that. Yeah. You there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, because now we're going to include the hands. And just give yourself permission to just like whatever's going on, let your hands do the talking. By the way, Immanuel Kant, who was a philosopher, said the hands are the visible part of the brain. It's expressive. It also makes things. So really just, and also notice, like watch the screen. What's the energy as you're noticing everybody moving their hands?
Yeah, right.
It's the action place.
Right.
Okay? All right. And now go back to your head. Except this time, it's the head embodied with the other four knowledge centers. This is where you really need your head. When you're integrated, your head is a beautiful place to be. And just notice what's here now. And once again, speak to it. Around that issue, that problem, that opportunity.
Purpose.
Who are you? What's that?
Purpose.
Yes.
I'm ready.
That's right. Yeah.
Not a
Hello.
problem. Not a problem.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's
Don't
an
overthink it.
opportunity.
Mm.
It's an opportunity, whereas earlier it was a dilemma.
Love it, Jerome.
It could be simple.
I'm going off script for a second, Jerome, and you have
Yes, sir.
permission to say no. You have permission to say no, but could you tell the group a little bit, maybe just like a minute or two, about your story?
Wow. I'm 51 years old.
And you can say, okay.
Yes. 51 years old. Was formerly incarcerated. I served 26 years on a life without the possibility of parole sentence, plus additional 13 years. While I was in there, I blamed everyone else. And like I said earlier, I was always spoken at. I was never allowed to feel as I connected to my father emotionally. And it caused me to always question myself, besides have peace within. So being in prison, it was an incubator for all these character defects that I had until I started to do self-awareness, learn myself, educate myself, allow myself to be guided and trained by mentors and people who cared about me. And ultimately, my life fundamentally changed for the better. I noticed the way I thought started to change, the way I spoke started to change. I noticed my influence, my friends changed, and my purpose changed. Today, I've been home for roughly 9 months. I've been currently working, giving back as a crisis intervention worker, as a peer mentor, and also today as a badass leadership training coach. Yes.
Thank you, Jerome.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll co-sign that.
Yeah.
Inspiring.
So, we're going to go back on script again. We needed a commercial break, right? So anyway,
That's right.
Our question to you is, where, and you can put this in the chat, where do you spend which knowledge center do you spend most of your time in?
For myself, it's definitely my growing. Definitely my growing, my passion to be a better person, to be a template of the person that my parents raised me to be, but to be a person that inspires others and that no longer offends in any capacity. I'm passionate about that.
Thank you, Jerome.
Thank you.
And I'm also noticing a lot of other people are putting it into the chat.
Good and good.
Yep. It's actually a pretty nice mix. I'm noticing. Yeah. And there's a lot of head, which makes sense because that's what the education system has taught us, as Mike was talking about.
You got some head and hands too. Creative folks.
Yep. And the next question is, what knowledge center would you like to use more of? Seeing a lot of heart here. Yeah. Gut. All right. Groin. Yeah. Great.
And you know, Eric, what just came forward for me is that when I'm grounded, like in my gut, you know, my intuition, that sometimes that gives me a greater access to my third eye. That's a sense that's even higher than intuition. It's like a knowingness, right? It's like something that guides me somewhere. I know, and I know that I know it. I don't know how I know it, right? But I call it, the third eye, right? Because
I call it the sixth. I call it the sixth knowledge center.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, all right. Yeah.
We got a six. Okay, great.
Eric, may I share something? It's something coming up for me as you're talking. So I just wanted to say thank you to Jerome for sharing what he shared. It kind of really made me emotional, right? And thank you for being brave enough, I think, to step out of that. But I think as I'm sitting here listening to you and then looking at myself and looking at the rest of you on the screen, I think the challenge is even greater for those of us who don't see the challenges as clearly. In other words, I'm going to speak to myself, right? I'm going to talk about the fact that I have been in the heart kind of person, right? And in the hands kind of person. And a few days ago, so I live in Scotland, and I went with Marilyn, actually, from Living Cities Earth. The two of us went to this play because we in the festival at the moment in Scotland, in Edinburgh, which is a huge kind of festival that we have here. And we went to watch this play, and it challenged my heart so very, very deeply. Because this lady, what she was really saying is how we suppress what we feel. And she particularly spoke about 3 Black women in America that went and hired this little condo that they were staying in. And one of them happened to be Bob Marley's granddaughter. And there was this white lady across the street that was like wondering, why are they in my neighborhood, right? So she tried to wave at them, thinking that they would wave back at her, but it was more about inquiry, not really about being friendly towards them, because she didn't like what she had in her neighborhood. And so she calls, because they didn't wave back at her, because they just felt they don't know who this woman is. So she goes and she calls 911 and calls the police, and they rock up. And these women engage with the police, and they're friendly and nice, and because what else are they going to do, right? So the point is, after when they describe this, they describe the inner world to be so different. So this story for me was about each of us here. Very often, especially to those of us that are in the heart all the time, or trying to save the world, or trying to do all these really great things, right? Sometimes we're not honest. And it really challenged my heart so much, Eric, because what you're bringing me back to here is just coming to that center. So what I was hearing the entire time was balance. And that authenticity of knowing and leaning into when you have to be in what heart, in what center. Because it's not that any of them are better. It's actually that you have to be in the center of that. And that, I call it dynamic balance, right? And it's because sometimes it causes, you need to be sassy. You need to grind. And sometimes you need to have that heart. And sometimes you need to have that point. So really, that's, as I'm sitting here, I'm actually emotional about what you said, because there have been moments that I haven't respected myself. I've not honored myself because I so badly wanted to honor the other. But actually, it requires both.
Yeah. That's a perfect segue into badass, because we're going to be talking about those qualities that help us when we become aware that we got stuck. Sometimes because of the nature of my upbringing, I was forced into a box, right? There's a TED talk that talks about the man box, right? And I was forced into that box, man up. Like, men don't feel, they don't hurt, they don't cry, they're not scared, right? You man up, you be hard, you represent. And that box, it was a pathology, right? I could not express my heart, what I really felt, who I really was, So I really honor that, Fariel. Thank you for bringing that into the space, because it's a perfect segue into the badass leadership model. Am I right, Eric?
You're so right. And I just want to kind of acknowledge, before we go there, is acknowledge a few people have put it into the chat. Fariel, you are so groin.
The reason I had to kind of get out of that more.
That was meant as an acknowledgement, Ferial. That was an acknowledgement.
Yes.
Okay. So lead us away. This is the moment you've all been waiting for. It was called bad. We're being a
There we go. The badass leader. Integration. The answer to today's VUCA environment. If you haven't heard of VUCA, it's volatile, uncertain, and give me the C and the A, Eric.
Complex and ambiguous.
Certainly.
Yes.
Indeed. So we've got some acronyms for you today. That B for being bold. And sometimes boldness for me is really about addressing, when I'm in that box and when I'm not being my real self, when I'm not speaking my heart, I'm not, speaking up, right? I had an experience once. We were on a visit somewhere where I was on a tour, and we had come to do service work, and we had been stuck in traffic so long, everybody was just like super tired. They wanted to go home. And I had to be bold and, step forward and say, folks, we're on the other side of the planet. We came over here to make a difference in the lives of others, and we went through some traffic. Yeah. And we're tired. Yeah. But still, we need to show up in the way that we said we wanted to show up. So I had to express some boldness in that moment, and that became a memorable moment for me, to step forward and speak what was in my heart, what was in my passion.
Yeah. And then there's authentic. And, Mike was talking about, this is for men, but women are included in this. Is, the whole man up thing. Is being authentic is the opposite of manning up. Being authentic is really owning that we are all vulnerable human beings and getting real with people.
Absolutely. The D is for disruptive. Sometimes we're on a bus and it's going somewhere where we don't want to go. And sometimes we just go along for the ride, right? Knowing that we don't want to be on this bus. And the disruptive leader is the one that says, hey, wait a minute, hold it. Where are we going, right? This is what our agreement is. This is where, I thought we were going. And, I think we have an opportunity to turn this bus around and go where we think we're going. So disruption is definitely called for. We've just come through an experience in which many people are longing for the normal, for things to return to normal. And what we've discovered is that there is no normal. And whatever that was back there before we went through the pandemic was certainly not normal. So it's time for a disruption.
And agile, once again, standing on the shoulders of what you said, Mike, in the world that we live in now, we also need to be agile. We need to change on a dime. I know a dime isn't worth much anymore, but back in the old day, that was an expression. Now we have to change on a $1.50, $1.50. Anyway, so it's all about really being flexible and moving in the direction that's needed in this moment.
Yeah. And the S for supportive, the leadership model that I was introduced to many, many years ago was the one in which the leader says, hey, I know the way, follow me, I'll show you. A supportive leader, however, is more expansive, more egalitarian, opens up the floor to this idea of sociocracy, right? Let's together figure out how we're going to co-create the world of tomorrow, you know, living cities, a place that works for everyone with no one left out. So it's
Right.
a badass leader that's supportive really is about bringing everyone along for the ride.
And also supporting people in growing. You know, in today's business environment, it's not just about managing, it's about growing your people. So in that sense, that S is really the coaching part of being a leader. And spacious is the opposite of command and control. As Mike was saying, in the old days, it was all about the person at the top telling you what to do. Now it's about empowering others to shine.
And you know,
So
what's forward for me, one more thing about the being the supportive, you know, is that like, I can't see my own eyebrows. I can't see my own ears. I can look in the mirror and see a reflection of them, but I require you, the people around me in my community, to reflect back to me, you know, my blind spots, the things that I can't see, you know? So sometimes being supportive involves, you know, carefrontation, right? Where I'm able to confront something, right? But in a caring way, to support someone, right? In working through their blind spots and the areas of growth that, you know, might be opportunities, right? For growth. Mm-hmm.
So we've introduced Badass in the 5 knowledge centers. And now we're going to put you into breakout rooms where you're going to get to work with both models. And do we have a slide for that or not?
Yeah, there's a slide for that.
There's a slide. There you go.
Wait, there's more.
All right. Yeah.
Right.
So I just want to check in with Stephanie, our wonderful tech host. Are we going to go in triads?
Yes, mostly triads.
Okay, so we're going to go in triads mean 3s. And there's going to be 3 questions that you're going to answer. And we'll also put this in the chat so you don't have to memorize it. But how will I be more, and pick a word from badass. Could be bold, authentic, pick one word from badass. And so for instance, how will I be more supportive this week, right? Mm-hmm. Then the next question is, which knowledge center or centers will you tap in to make that happen? So for me, if I want to be more supportive, maybe I would tap into my heart, okay? And then what's one action that I could take this week around being more supportive? First thing that comes up to me is my wife. I could be more, supportive and more heartfelt towards her this week. So that's an example. So each of you and the other 2, you're going to be supporting that other person in answering those questions. You're going to have a total of 10 minutes. And hopefully you'll all walk away with one action that you can take this week around what you've learned.
Hey, Eric, I want to make an announcement because I've been supporting Daniel trying to get in the room, but Daniel Silva from SAR is here. And I just wanted to call him out, welcome him to the room. Hey, Daniel.
Hello.
Okay, so
what a morning. Technology still kicks my ass every time.
It's all good, brother. It's all good.
Just a little bit about Daniel. Daniel is a legend. Okay, he's a living legend. He developed the SAR program. Daniel, do you mind if I talk a little bit about you?
You do what you do, man. I'm good.
All right. Okay. Because also, I don't want to get on Daniel's bad side. Daniel, what were you serving? A 40-year sentence?
Yeah, they called me one shy of 40. One shy of 40. That's what they were calling me when I came home. One shy of 40.
one shy of 40. Okay. And he developed the SAR program, self-awareness and recovery, which is all about healing traumatic wounds for people that are incarcerated. The man is a legend.
Yeah,
So thank you for being here.
And you know, I just got to weigh in here. You know, I met Daniel at through Freedom to Choose. Gosh, it's been maybe over 10, 15 years ago, I guess it was. And I actually attended one of their events. And what SAR, self-awareness and recovery, does is helps individuals look at the trauma that happened to them, to answer the question, not what's wrong with you, but what happened to you. Right? Why did you make the choices that you made? And it's been transformational throughout the CDCR, the California prison system, so much so that when Daniel came home, his nonprofit was already founded, but they gave him a grant. He's still granted by the state of California to do this work, to help with the healing of folks that have experienced that childhood trauma. So Daniel, we acknowledge you. Is there anything you want to say before we go into these breakout rooms?
Thank you. I'm so happy to be in this conference, man, for reals. It took a long time, and it gives me a reality check about, the damages that incarceration does to a lot of us. Like, challenges such as technology. Man, I've been out 8 years already,
Wow.
I've been out 8 years and I'm still going through technology issues, right? And so it really kicks my ass, like I said earlier. But I'm a fighter. I keep trying and tenacious, and I made it, right? I made it in.
That's right. I got your back, Daniel. I got your back.
Right. You did. You were there. That's right.
All right, brother. You can join us.
All right.
Right.
We're going to move it along. We want you to connect with each other in threes. So I'll see you in 10 minutes.
There you go.
Can you try now, Stephanie, to make me a co-host?
I know.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And then
And can you turn on the recording again, please?
Yep.
Sure.
There you go.
Okay.
Amazing. You guys, amazing. What's the name of our little group? What's the name of our
Okay,
group?
somebody needs to go on mute.
I think that's in the SAR room. Sounds like it.
Antonio, maybe.
Okay, great. All right.
Yeah, that is
Well,
Daryl.
Thanks.
Daryl is here.
There's Daryl. Hi, Daryl.
Yeah.
All right.
No, yeah, I was on, but I didn't have my video on. But I had to turn it on when we were in groups of threes. It didn't make sense to not have it on.
Okay. Daryl is another Living Cities Earth co-founder. We have a bunch of co-founders here today. And as a matter of fact, before we do the debrief, why don't just, we got, why don't you just, if you're a Living City Earth co-founder, why don't you just, quickly introduce yourself? Like
a wave.
Or wave
okay. You want to tweet though, a tweet.
A tweet.
Hi, I'm Daryl, and I'm the original badass.
All right. Welcome. Okay, who's
really.
next?
All right. So this is what we call a debrief. What happened when the three of you got together and you started working on, integrating the 5 knowledge centers and the badass? What came up for you? And if you'd like to declare what you intend to do, that's good too.
This is Nina. I'll speak. I like the way they build on each other, and it was hard to choose just one. I think they kind of feel like they are connected in a lot of different ways. So.
You could have broke the rules, by the way, and picked 2 or 3. That's okay too.
I did. Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
Okay. Of course. You are a rule breaker. Exactly.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, what are you learning, if anything?
Well, this is Daryl. One thing that came up was the assign or the way it was described or prescribed was that the hands was a manifestation of the head. I think our conversation kind of took a different route, thought that the hands could be as equal an expression of the heart.
Mm-hmm.
To sit us that way.
Good point.
Yes.
I think it's just a cool, the words are cool to work with. It's just another model to kind of approach an issue. So I just found the word useful as like a vehicle to think about it. So my hands are going.
Right.
Got it. Thank you.
I think we tended to kind of think about them separately, but as I'm reflecting on it, they're all so intermingled all the time, right? I mean, it's almost like the synergy between them. So as I'm thinking about it now, one builds off the other one. You make a commitment to one, the other ones will flow in one way or another. That's what it feels like to me right now.
Yeah, I like that idea, Ron. It's like an integration that happens, right? When we embrace one, it brings along the other ones,
It really reminds me of proactive synergy is what it does. It's like you break it out. At the end of the day, it all comes together. And then how do you use it all together in any given situation? And then even though you're making a commitment, and that's your commitment to do it, that's great. But they still all seem to be working in tandem.
Yeah. Right. I get it. Yep.
Yeah. I'm just looking at what Karen wrote. Daniel and I did our own thing to get connected with the missions of our organization. Actually, that's what we're all hoping for. You didn't have to follow what we asked you to do. It's much, much more important to us that the connections get created. So I'm very pleased that you didn't listen to me, Karen.
Colonization happened, right? Huh?
Yeah.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
Karen, so I felt a strong connection in the head, in the heart, and even in the growing passion, because at the end, the passion is what created the organization on the inside, and then it came to the outside. It came to the free world through a whole lot of struggle and a whole lot of, it was a mix of trauma, injustice, bad living, destructive lifestyles, a whole lot. It took a whole lot, and then it went into a prison system through injustice, and then it came home. It created something so that it wouldn't be for nothing. So now people are benefiting from, from that process kind of thing. And I just was able to connect that whole chart that you guys, created. And just thought I had that part.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel.
So I'll go next. I was in a room with Jamie and Forrest, and it was really great. We, in a sense, I think we kind of learned from each other, like things that you weren't thinking about, the other person came up with. It's like, oh, we like that. I'm taking that one for me. So one of the things that came up for me during this was that we don't actually learn as much. We don't gain as much wisdom when we're just doing our own internal development. But actually, there is much to be said for community internal development, right? We're talking and we're learning, we're seeing another's perspective. And that's what came out for us. I think one of the things that was important is, could we this week actually look at life from another's perspective? So I call them empathy walks, people that are so different to you. Are you able to listen to some of their stories and have that inform how you then view the world? Because it can be so narrow, because I only have this perspective. I can't help for this. This is how I was born, right? With this perspective. But what I can help for is to broaden that perspective. So this was kind of what came up for us, is could we have that compassion? And if we really want to see this kind of living, live, wonderful city or cities, could we try to have or learn more about another's world? I call it visas into their world.
I love that idea. I love that idea, Ariel. And what comes forward for me is that idea of sawubona, right? Sawubona, even though it's the word, it means I see you. The response is yebo, sawubona. Yes, I see you seeing me. But in that seeing, right, there is an awareness of who I am, that I exist for you, that I exist in you. There's parts of us that are connected, and we could be from, opposite ends of the earth and still have that experience of seeing each other and being seen. I love that idea. Thank you, Ferial.
There's something there that Ferial spoke to that I wanted to kind of take in a slightly different direction, in that I feel that people still assume that leadership is a singular thing, like the one person. And some of the wounds that we're carrying are collective, and I've been doing a lot of work with people like Resma Menachem and stuff for years, where we're looking at what are the communal medicines that we create together, because we were not wounded just individually, So how can we have that collective boldness and authenticness that really adds another grade, another quality to how we show up? Because we know we've got other people in the space that are carrying it with us, and I think that's why so many leaders burn out, because they think they have to shoulder it alone. And the way they kind of communicate it, it's like, oh, it's my sole responsibility.
Right. Right. That's powerful, Martha. Yeah. Yeah. And, it reminds me that, what I was taught as a kid about, survival of the fittest, and it's about rugged individualism. You got to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and all that, that it's not, the world of tomorrow is not about competition, but it's about cooperation, about community, about us, healing together. Right. So what you said really speaks to that, Martha. Thank you.
Yeah, and it doesn't take away from us having to grow individually, so that when we show up together, there is this real, like the Indra's net, where we're all lit, but we're creating, we've got a net together that we're casting and offering out to the world, to light up a situation, to transform it. Like, because no one is going to shift the industrial prison complex alone, right? People have been,
Yeah. But those little bitty changes, like we've seen work actually shift the culture inside of California prisons, right? Over a period of time, like we have just seen the shift. It even impacted the correctional officers, right? Because they're in prison too, but they don't know they're in prison. They think they're in there watching over somebody else. But when healing happens anywhere, it happens everywhere. Right? So thank you, Martha.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What I'm loving right now is
Jerome's got his hand up.
Yeah, but I just want to say something real quick. What I'm loving right now is actually the group genius is showing up. And I'm just, I'm getting out of the way. Jerome.
Yes. Thank you again. I had an amazing experience. I went to Germany and Brazil. Vika and Wyman, and it was amazing. This is medicine for our soul. It is, because for me, like you said, you're right. It was referenced earlier. It does seem like it's so separate, but it's also it's so together. And I know for us, just walking away with, I switched. I wanted some of what my teammates wanted. It was more boldness. In certain areas of our personal life, like you said, it did change, but also it brought me to a place of my action. I went back to the same environment. I wanted to go back to a place where we could be trained, we could be loved on, where it was just a safe place to be the best person I can be, so I can be spacious. I can be bold and supportive.
Powerful. Thank you, Jerome.
Thank you.
What else is coming up?
I'm thinking about what, so someone in our group wanted to go inside, do some meditation, really sink in to find what they needed. And then someone else wanted to go outside, meditate in nature and be in nature. And I'm just thinking about what some people have said, and about what Martha maybe offered around community happens among people, and that we grow something. But I also really appreciate, I just came back from a retreat in New Mexico, and there was something about being in the world, in this space where everything is changing, hummingbirds flying around and sending some kind of signal, and clouds always changing also, that like, and I'm reading the living cities and earth, that like the sidewalk was built for us, that for humanity to walk together on, and that trees are there to provide shade. So I'm just expanding beyond community as people, but the very earth and the way that we interact. I know it sounds a little woo-woo, but I'm just gonna ride that wave for a minute and see how that feels. Like I belong in this space, in all the spaces, and we can all shape those spaces.
Yeah, Jamie, woo-woo works.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. Yeah.
I'd love to hear from some people that haven't spoken.
Lev has his hand up.
Thank you. Thank you.
Lev.
We worked with Nina and Antonio, and great work. Thank you, guys. Really learned from each other. At least I learned from my partners. What I really enjoyed also in applying the badass leadership model, I worked with two dimensions, being more authentic and spacious. that it allowed me to connect my family life with my sort of projects and external work. And Nina and Antonio, so I really found a lot of inspiration in being more authentic with my kids and being more spacious with them. So it would help me reduce the level of stress, provide more, father type energy to them, but also to be more available for all my colleagues and friends in my projects. And those two dimensions, being more authentic and spacious, really helped me basically seeing how I could be different in a very practical way in my real situation already next week, or I could start today. So thank you very much for this experience, and thank you to my partners.
Thank you, Lev.
And just for all of you to know, Lev is one of the OGs. And if you don't know what OGs means, original gangsters of Living Cities Earth.
The God.
Right.
That's gonna stick with you, Lev.
That's right.
I thought you were calling us old guys for a minute.
And Lev's got.
I'm the oldest in the room, so I get to do that.
We know you guys are gangsters of love, right? We know that.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What comes forward for me now is somebody was talking about the nature, the power of nature. And I yesterday I was just compelled to go walk in the canyon and walk amongst the oaks and go to the stream. And I mean, it was so healing. And on my way back, I saw this oak tree that was obviously several hundred years old growing out of the side of a hillside, right? That was like almost 45 degrees. And this oak tree had so much resilience. It had weathered so many storms, so much. And I just sat there and absorbed the wisdom out of this oak tree, And then I remembered back to growing up in the urban city where, the trees were being cut down, Like I had originally grown up on a tree-lined street, and then they cut down all the trees, and and it was just a stark contrast to being in nature and not having nature available.
Yeah.
May I add something else?
Mm-hmm.
I add something.
And then Jody. Go ahead.
Sorry, what Mike has just said. So this past week, I've really been getting into nature in Scotland, and it's one of the most beautiful landscapes in the world. And I was reminded of the kelp in Scotland that grows in the sea, right? And it grows under very, very harsh circumstances, right? But it grows really fast, and it provides food for so many other parts of the sea, and even for us, right? It's really great for us to eat. So what I want to say with this is that all of us have had our own stories up until now, right? In the sense of where we come from. I myself have grown up in South Africa, in apartheid South Africa. So you would understand a little bit more about what that means, right? And so many of the rest of you have your own stories that might have been filled with some of these traumas we talked about earlier. But the moment that you start to look at that with these different eyes, when you start, and when I'm looking at all of you, you're really proof of that. Proof of that everything must be so. And the moment we stop being angry about why was this like that? Why did I? But actually, nature was evolving something so incredibly beautiful. Something so incredibly beautiful that is so opportune for this moment. And that for me is to take away that and to look at nature as that incredible ancient teacher. And nature's been through hell and back, right? But look at her. And so the same with us. We've been through a bit, but look at us. Right?
I love it.
Yeah. I just before we get to you, Jody, I just wanted to highlight something. Could you put up the 5 knowledge centers model just for a second? Because I want to bring it back to what's being discussed here. Is that what we didn't show you is that around the stick drawing is
Mhm.
nature.
Yeah.
Nature is constantly giving us information that we as human beings get to assimilate into the 5 knowledge centers.
Mhm.
So it's very relevant to also what we're teaching here today. And Jody, why don't you be our last person, because we're going to turn it over to the next section after this.
Awesome. And I would, just to carry on with the nature theme, is that I would offer that you don't need to walk through a forest to be in nature. I work in some of the most in some really difficult neighborhoods in New York City and in Newark, New Jersey, and even a dandelion that's coming up through a cracked sidewalk, if we can be that attuned to seeing it there, like what's the message that we can get from that little yellow head sticking up in our sidewalk? I happen to work with horses in an urban environment, and my young people from downtown Newark get to come out and they get to be in the company of horses, and we're literally 2 miles from New York City, and we're 15 miles from Newark. So just look for nature in small places, unexpected.
The magnificence of life.
Thank you, Jody.
Well, we're loving this conversation, and part of the vision that I have is that, Living Cities Earth, and I'm going to turn it over to Lev and Ferial in a moment, but part of our mission at Living Cities Earth is to really support cities in what we call creating happy cities. And I really feel like what we did today is an example of what I want to see Living Cities Earth do more of, which is when we go into cities, it's not just about bringing in city leaders and business leaders. It's about bringing in communities. It's about really bringing in all the people that live in a particular city and creating environments where everybody brings their own particular brilliance. So thank you.
I love
We're
that.
We're gonna turn it over to Lev and Ferial for about 20 minutes. I'll just give you a heads up. They're going to give you a little bit more information. We're going to take you to your heads now. We're going to give you some information about Living Cities Earth, right? And hopefully it will touch your heart. And then we'll come back and we'll wrap it up with a little completion. So yeah, let's, is 15, 20 minutes okay?
Perfect.
Great.
It's perfect. If I could share my screen, and thank you again for our meeting today. It's really inspiring. And as I said, I'll take it and implement in my life right away, not tomorrow, but today. So thank you for the model and wonderful communication. All right. Well, guys, everybody, hello. I'm right now in Seattle, in northwest of the United States. Good to see you. Originally, I was born in Russia, lived in, 11 countries, worked in 35 countries all over the world. And last 6 or 7 now years, we live with my wife and 2 kids in Vancouver and now in Seattle in the United States. And I was one of the original gangsters, as Eric or Michael both of them said. So one of the original, one of the co-founders. We don't have any grades here. We are all sort of on the equal footing. And I just wanted to share very quickly some of the insights and ideas from the small path. The Living Cities Earth as an organization, a movement, was created about a year ago, last summer. And we are very early in our development. And really, the reason I'm sharing is that perhaps some of you will feel inner connection and would like to participate in some of the projects, programs, join this organization, the community, and or become one of the sort of ambassadors wherever you are in the world. So thank you again for being together today. I'll quickly show some slides. You could relax. There will be nothing serious, nothing to really, dive into. Just observe, and whatever attracts your attention the most, this will be the information which is destined to you personally. So let me open our small slide deck. Do you see the blue background?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. Well, you also see a lot of colors, and this is part of our visual identity. We feel that we don't even have one logo, as most companies or organizations do. We decided that life is so diverse and it's so dynamic that even our logo is able to change. And we use lots of different visual colors and patterns to represent the diversity of life. Diversity in terms of scale, diversity in terms of origin, and in many, many other ways. So as I mentioned, we're at the very early days of our path. We sort of have the vision and plans for 100+ years. So we believe even when all of us, the current members and co-founders and partners, will pass away into the better or sort of next life or next reality, the organization will go on. So what we do is more than our individual sort of life, and it's the cooperation and communication which makes it all possible. So we're at the very beginning, about 1% of our capacity, and we deal with the issues which are also about 1% in terms of complexity of what we really want to work with. And what do we want to work with? Our vision, the one thing you could remember if you stick to something out of everything I said, is very simple. It's 10,000 living cities on one living planet. It turned out that there are 10,000 cities on our planet. There are 4 million villages, but 10,000 cities in 200+ countries. And so what do we perceive to be a living city? From our perspective, it's a place where people feel fully alive. And maybe this is the most important. But we also add that they could human well together, sort of reach our creative potential as individuals, but also as communities and groups. And finally, where we could live happy, healthy lives in harmony with each other and with nature. Very simple. We have some complex definitions, but this is a very sort of straightforward one. 10,000 living cities where we feel fully alive and live in harmony with each other and with nature. I'm sure every one of us wants this type of life for ourselves, our kids, our friends, and so on and so forth. So who we are? Well, I could sort of use a shortcut and say that we are all of those. So we are the integrator. So we bring together other projects, other organizations, other movements. We are a servant to our planet as well as to our communities. We are a disruptor. So we bring some new ideas, some challenges when we see that the status quo does not suffice any longer. We're also a think tank, but also a dream tank, and also a link tank. So we are linking together, integrating and interconnecting people and organizations and projects, but also we are the do tank. So we do things in the cities, in the communities, and many other things. I could send the presentation, so you could look at it later on. What we do in our daily life, number one, we enjoy what we do. That's number one, because we realize if we don't enjoy what we do, we will not be here for a long time. And we understand that the challenges we look at, they really require long-term perspective. So we inspire each other, ourselves, and the world. We interconnect, integrate, explore, engage, and do many other things. Education, of course, consulting, communication. We organize events, we organize on-the-ground projects, and we do a lot of weaving, meshworking. In the end, we laugh and we celebrate. So if we start with enjoying what we do and we celebrate our successes, well, we understand it will not be in vain, and it will definitely bring lots of good to ourselves, our communities, and the world at large. Today, we found that we are the largest integral city development community on our planet. It seems a little bit sort of fantastic, but that's a fact. We use what's called integral approach. And like in badass leadership, we integrate what's inside each one of us, right? Our soul, our spirit, our energy, our intelligence, etc., with what's outside the social systems, communities, infrastructure, etc. And we understand the integral approach. It's about really connecting our inner life with our outer impact and activities. Today, we have about 150 global leaders and institutions in our ecosystem, and it will be growing very fast, so it will be thousands. And today, already the co-founders, as you'll see, and the Ferial will talk about it, they come from about 25 countries, from 5 continents. There are about 65 co-founders today. We understand that neither 50, no 100, no 1,000 co-founders and partners will change life on our planet because it's too large. So the way we see the strategy, how we want to go forward, we understand that in each city there are already badass leaders and just sort of leaders who already make things better every day. Our idea is to connect with them and to create this global community of leaders of positive change. They come in all very different shapes and forms, from government, from business, from local civic society. Some of them operate on the level of their backyard. Some of them operate on the level of their district or city. Some work on the level of country, macro region, or even the planet. So we want to inspire, empower, and interconnect those people to bring together this positive change in 10,000 cities on our planet. We believe we can learn from each other, we can connect resources, increase our sort of leverage, lobbying capacity, and many other things, of course, share experiences. So there is really lots to do when we communicate and cooperate. Lots of positive things will transpire. So what is our mission? As I said, it's to bring those people together. So if you feel you're one of those global or local leaders and you want to become part of this movement, well, definitely talk to Eric, Mike, Ferial, myself, or other people from LC whom you know, and do join. There are lots of different activities which we do. They're partly described on the slide, but let me go forward. How do we believe that we can tackle this big challenge? We talk about the planet. It could be just talk and we don't walk the talk, right? It's also good to dream big, but our idea is that we not only dream big, but we also do what we preach, right? So we really create this global impact. So how do we do it? Where do we get the resources? And it's a bottom-up initiative, so we don't have sort of any major government funding or anything like this, but we believe that we can do it. Why? So the first sort of pillar, the first resource are the co-founders. We select the world-class leaders, individuals who really could bring lots of resources to our common sort of initiative. And we already see how Eric and Mike and Ferial and other co-founders who are present today and who are not present today, how they come together, they create synergy, and they start creating this positive change. The second pillar are the partners. So the institutional partners we invite from different countries. Some of them are global, some of them are regional or local. And coming together, those institutional partners, and I'll talk about a couple of them later on, they also create this synergy and joint sort of positive impact on the world. And of course, the most important is the growing community of mostly local, but also global leaders of positive change. Those, quote unquote, 1 million leaders who could affect lives of all, people on Earth, but also other forms of life, sort of our ecosystems. Those are not all, but just some. I couldn't fit all of them. Some of our co-founders, again, coming from all different countries, every month they're joining us at the general meeting. And this is just one example, about, I think, from June, when a few new co-founders joined. Those are some of the partners from all over the world, pretty much. Just to give you a sense, how do we see growing this year and the next year? So we're building the organization, and it's a slow process. We're building our inner culture, processes, etc. We're looking for pilot projects in the cities, so where we could bring our ideas, models, our technologies, and really change things. And we have a lot of past experiences before we all joined. So people who came here, again, they were established leaders with past track record. And I was participating in many projects on the ground where a city would really transform life within the matter of a few years. It was amazing to see. And so we are expanding our group of co-founders and institutional partners. And what we are doing right now, we're creating a database of leaders, city leaders in those 10,000 cities, so we can connect with them, talk, invite, communicate, etc. Today, we have a database of about 3,500 cities, and we're building it actually manually, looking for it on the websites and different other databases. And we will have connection with all of the cities on our planet, with city leaders and communities in those cities. And the global community, the last sort of orange line, this is something we will need to work more with, right? We were building our inner core, now we are sort of moving out, reaching out. Maybe Ferial will talk about it as well. So definitely, if you feel like it, come and join us, either as a member of this community or as an ambassador of Living Cities Earth, wherever you are in the world. Internally, we work with a process called sociocracy. It's a management system which really provides opportunities for every person to manifest his or her potential and to really create this sort of living organization. So it's modeled after the living systems, and we are learning and actually enjoying using this management system, management model, management culture within Living Cities Earth. Those are few work groups. So when people join, they go to one or several of those work groups, and this is how work is being done, whether it's on strategy or projects or communications or some specific events or specific local activities. So people come together from all over the world, you know, they choose the objectives of their work and then they work together to reach those objectives. A few projects, I will not sort of stop here for a long time, but they range greatly from specific events, and I'll talk about one of them in a second, to, for example, technological platforms. So one of our co-founders, or actually several, when they joined, they brought together a new platform called CoDo, and it's the technology for cooperation and communication of leaders of positive change worldwide. So we are now developing it together. There are many other sort of projects which our co-founders brought on board, and now we build synergies between those projects to create this larger ecosystem for positive change on a local and global scale. Recently, I saw Robert Fisher somewhere here among participants. He's one of the sort of co-founders. He lives in Switzerland, and about a year ago he said, online communication is great, it's very efficient, etc., but we need to come together. So he suggested, and we actually met in person a few weeks ago in Switzerland at his place actually, and we had our first co-founders camp, and now with Eric, Mike, and other folks, we plan to have the local California or West Coast camp somewhere in November, December to meet in person. And that was great because we really were able to give a hug to each other and spend, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 actually days together, you know, roaming around Swiss mountains and discussing our future. And we built this roadmap. So lots of beautiful things which transpire from, you know, in-person communication. I mentioned this global ecosystem of institutional partners, and one of the ways it happens, and it relates to each one of us, whatever projects and initiatives we represent in our daily life today, we could bring on board, and we interconnect them and see what is the you know, areas of synergy, how we can interconnect and really sort of achieve our goals together. And so far we see that it's working really well. That's just one example. One of the co-founders, Olivier Brechard from Paris, France. He is the director of Learning Planet Alliance. It's a global organization which works with 400 other institutions everywhere in the world, in 191 countries. And so together with them, we now develop some educational programs which will also reach young people worldwide and adult people worldwide. So it's one example of how a partner or a co-founder could bring his or her activities into our sort of global ecosystem. Another one founded by Violeta Bulk from Slovenia, former Yugoslavia, who remembers it, together with other sort of co-founders and team members, is called eco-civilization, and Ferial is also part of it. Maybe she will mention it as well. And it's a global, again, project which works in all of those orange countries. And so when Ferial and when Violeta Ferial and their team, when they joined us, we also saw new opportunities, how to bring resources together, how to develop joint projects, etc., etc. That's another example. And we believe that when we join, we can realize our inner missions, our sort of project missions together in synergy. That's really important. And finally, with all those beautiful colors, I wanted to give you an example of an event we organized back in April. Some of you know that April 21st, I believe it was, our 22nd, the Earth Day. So the day when we celebrate our planet and sort of pay respect and think about how we can live our life better all together. So this was an event when we brought people together from 4 continents, Asia, Europe, Africa, and both Americas, actually. And we had participants from 157 actually cities, more than it's indicated up to there, from 45 countries. So people from, well, pretty much all over the world came together, and those who organized it, the experts and the organizers, they're here. So those are not the participants, but the speakers at this event, I believe 92 individuals. And what was interesting, so I'm not talking now about the scale, but after all the discussions, I believe it was 3 or 4 days, 3 days, the final insight which we brought into our lives was this, that love is the answer. So we spoke about very many smart things and very sort of high-level discussions and looked at practical case. But in the end, when we had our final sessions with all the insights from 3 days, the distilled wisdom of this event was very simple. Love is the answer. Love to ourselves, to people around us, to our places, and to our planet. So we look at 4 levels of scale. And so if we develop and practice this love in daily life, really, it can answer many, many questions we have individually and collectively. Last couple of things before I pass it on to Ferial. When we look in, over the next year, we see 2 sort of areas of focus. Number 1 is happiness. And we sort of discuss with Eric and Mike and Ferial and other people sort of a global happiness initiative. And our event today is part of Happy Cities Marathon. But we are looking about also creating a program for young kids and adults on how to really create happy places and happiness in their life, how we are authors of our own happiness, thrivability, sort of flourishing, etc. But the second thing, and it's related to our topic of our sessions today, the Badass Leadership, it's the Global Leadership Initiative, because we strongly believe that real, authentic leadership is needed in the world. Sometimes people say, leaders brought us to where we are today, we are not in a good place, so leadership is bad. That's total bullshit, of course. Authentic, wise leadership is always needed, right? But it's how we manifest ourselves as leaders. And so we are building this community, we are sharing the information, the models, the tools, our experiences, supporting each other, etc. So those are 2 areas of focus we are considering for the next year, global happiness and global leadership initiatives. And as I said, we are just at the very beginning, so lots of room to add, to share, to synergize. And let me pass it on to Ferial as we sort of fly on. Ferial, on to you.
I just need to jump in for a second. We're really running out of time, Ferial. So could you?
I'll make it short.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think Lev's already given you loads of incredible information. I don't need to add to all of that. But what I'm going to add is some heart here, right? So what I'm going to do is I've got a whole presentation, but I'm not going to show you that presentation. What I'm going to say to you is, look, are any of you just sick and tired? I was of trying to fix the world, trying to fix ourselves, right? But we're trying to do it out of this space because this is what we've all been doing, right? 2 million charity organizations worldwide, and that's not accounting for the unregistered ones. That's not accounting for social enterprises. We're all stabbing at the problems of the world or the challenges of the world. But it looks like we're getting no further to solving them. And part of that has been something that Lev has said, that unique aspect of operating from that integral space within yourself. And that is what Living Cities Earth is about. So for the first time in my 50 years, so I'm not as old as you, Eric. Well, I'm not as young as the rest, some of you here, but what I can say is in my 50 years, I've learned now that you can try and kind of fix it with your head, but for whatever reason, it has not worked. So Living Cities Earth is taking this completely different approach. And I know there are other organizations around the world doing that as well, but they've not been able to accomplish, I think, the bringing together of the amount of people. And right now, I remember a little African parable that's like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, now take some folk with you.
Mhm.
That's what we're doing here. And I can tell you, for the first time in my life, I work with lots of organizations. I think I run 20 projects, right? So Living Cities is one of that, but it's the one organization, and I've said that to 11 others, and thank them so much for creating this space, because it was Ferial. Come and play, right? Who has said that to you before, right? Because in the past, it's been, this is our vision, can bring your skills to that vision. Living Cities Earth's approach is, yes, our vision is the world. Just come play and bring what you bring. Work with who you need to work with, organize with who you need to organize. And of course, we have amazing people like Lev and Marina Demchenko and a whole bunch of others organizing behind the scenes infrastructure, and we're growing that space. But I think I just want to make that invitation. I've got 2 minutes left. My invitation is, come join us. Right? It is, there are so many opportunities. So co-founders, by the end of this year, we hope to have about 100. As you've heard Lev say, we've got around 65 at the moment. And the idea behind that is that if that is something that is in your heart at the moment, speak to any one of us. You have to be introduced by someone else. Reason for that is we want to have co-founders be people of integrity, because it's time that we up our game if we're going to change the frequency of the world. Right? So there's that. And then there's plenty of other room. There's room for you to come be a member and come bring your ideas, be a strategic partner. Please sign up. If Liv has that link, please put it into the chat. Sign up. Your first step is, if you think this is a fascinating organization in some way you want to put your energy towards, then please sign up to our newsletter. Reach out to one of us, chat to us. And it is about being humans together, not about this hierarchy and these amazing, special, skilled people. Yes, we're all of that, but we're also these absolutely human beings. And we want to learn how to human well together and with the rest of nature, because therein is what we think is the secret. Therein is the magic. So with that said, I want to thank you all for having us today and for listening to us so beautifully. And just say, you were all pretty badass. Mike, Eric, awesome stuff. Badass dudes. Loved it. Thank you.
Thank you. I know it's on top of the hour, so we have a link. If you have the time, if you could just, it's a very simple feedback form. We'd love to hear from you. And then the last slide. Mike, is there something you want to say?
Absolutely.
I'm of German descent, so I have to be on.
I want to invite you to put September 13th, 9 a.m. Pacific time on your calendar. The Freedom to Choose project that we did for the Global Cities event, the marathon, we're doing an enhanced version of that, where you'll get a chance to experience compassionate experiential education that we take into California prisons. And it's perfect for our co-founders, for leaders, for us, how to bring more heart into the space. So we'll send you out some information about it. Please come and join us. I'm glad that Forrest Lightberg, the new executive director, was able to join us this morning from Freedom to Choose, and you'll hear more information about that shortly.
And the last thing, you're not finished?
I'm complete.
Okay, the last thing in the chat, just put in a word or two, whatever. Just put something in the chat to kind of wrap this up. Okay? Oh, I got it. What knowledge center are you in right now?
We got a lot of hearts in the room.
A lot of heart.
Passion. That's right. We know we're in it to win it. Joy, Sam says.
All right.
All right. Love it. That's right. Badass leaders.
Well, we so appreciate you spending this time with us. We put up a, could you put in the chat, if you want to get in touch with us, Stephanie is going to put an email address in there. We'd love to hear from you. We love you.
Awesome.
And we'll see you next time.
Peace and blessings, everyone. Till next time.
Take care.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
All right, Jerome, way to go. Antonio.
Hey, see you guys.
Daniel,
Hey, thank you.
glad you
Alright.
made it. Okay, I'll be in
Yes,
touch.
yes. Thank you. Thank you. We'll be in
We're,
touch.
we're coming to your hood, Daniel. We're coming to your hood.
That's right. Good to see everybody. Thanks, Fariel. Thanks, Jerome. Glad you got on, Daniel.
Thank you, Fariel. Thank you, Lab. Thank you, Robert. All right.
Way to go. You guys knocked it out the park.
Yeah.
Fariel, very impassioned invitation. We needed that.
Yeah, we did.
It was awesome. Thank you. You guys are totally badass.
And so are you, Fariel.
Daniel, what is
I feel comfortable enough to say this to you. You're one badass motherfucker.
Daniel,
keep it real.
that's all I'm gonna say. Awesome.
I'm glad you made it in, Daniel.
Daniel, take care, man.
All right, brother. Talk to you soon.
Daniel, you still there?
I think he might not know how to log off. He
Did I
just
just
got,
hit remove?
put him in a waiting room.
Okay.
Oh, there he goes.
Yeah.
Great. Okay.
Oh, he wants to be admitted.
No.
I think
I put him in the
Oh,
waiting room. Yeah.